Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all, wherever you are joining us from around the world, and welcome to day 2 of the Schmidt Ocean Institute 2023 Virtual Symposium, Setting the Course. I'm Jyotika Virmani, Executive Director of the Schmidt Ocean Institute. And as you may know, this virtual format, of the symposium is very different from our previous one, which we did in 2021. 2 weeks ago, we released a series of 5 videos for you to watch ahead of time. And I hope you've had a chance to watch them, but if you haven't, that's okay, because they are still available and will be always on our symposium website. And they contain a lot more information than we are able to cover during these live Waypoint sessions. So today is the 3rd of our Waypoint sessions. If you joined us yesterday for Waypoints 1 and 2, we talked about what was new at SOI in general and about RV Falkor 2 and its amazing capabilities. Today, we're here live to answer any questions throughout the day about how you can apply to get on board, to participate with the science that's taking place, or to learn and to connect and get some ship-to-shore connections. So to kick things off, this session this morning, right now, is about our newly opened call for proposals from scientists and technology developers. And it's special to me because I've been with SOI for just over 3 years now. And due to the pandemic and the transition from our previous vessel, Falkor, to our new vessel, Falkor 2, this is the first time during my tenure here that we've actually had an open call for expressions of interest. So I personally am very excited to see what wonderful proposals for ship time come in. I'm here to answer your questions with Leonard Pace, SOI's Science Program Senior Manager, who oversees the entire submission process for proposals. But before we do that, I want to take a moment to thank Lisa Pereira, our Events and Marketing Manager, and our communications team for all the behind-the-scenes work that's gone into making this symposium possible. And now I'd like to hand it over to Allison Miller, our Research Program Senior Manager and host for these sessions. Allison, over to you.
Thanks so much for that welcome, Jyotika, and I'm excited to have lots of questions answered by you and Leonard this morning here in Washington, D.C. It is morning time. I also hope everyone has had the chance to watch the videos that we posted online, as Jyotika mentioned, about how to apply for ship time. I have a few logistical items to discuss before we go into question and answer. Please use the Q&A icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen to enter your questions, and we'll get through as many as we can over the next 30 minutes. Closed caption has also been enabled, so you can turn it on or off using the icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And as you heard when you joined, we are recording this session. They will be posted online on the Schmidt Ocean Institute website within a few weeks so that you can revisit any content that you missed or share with your family and friends. Leonard and Jyotika, let's dive into a few questions while we're waiting for our audience to enter a few of their own. We have a few that were entered through the online form before this session began. And Leonard, the first one we have is for you. Is SOI open to going beyond the borders shown on the 10-year expedition map that we shared earlier this year?
Well, first off, I'd like to say hello and good morning to everybody. And to dive into your question, those borders are pretty firm, but the truth is they're kind of fluid like the ocean. If somebody wants to conduct a project that's just on the other side or right on the line, we are happy to entertain that. And if somebody's interested in conducting a project that is more significantly distant from where that line is, we're happy to have a conversation about it. We've had some conversations already with folks who wanted to operate well away from those lines, and we had to help them understand that that is just a little too far, but we are open to having those conversations. So please, if your project idea is off the line, let us know and we can talk about what is realistic and what isn't.
Excellent. And we had a question about whether those geographic boundaries could be shared as a shapefile or a latitude and longitude CSV file so that some of those lines might have more accurate depictions?
Yeah, the truth is yes, that they certainly can be shared, but I think for the majority of the community, the real value is in that conversation. So we would rather have a conversation with folks about, if you're trying to figure out exactly where on the line we are, you're better off just talking to us about where your project wants to be, and we can have a conversation about whether we can be flexible with that location or not.
Sounds great. And while we're on the topic of the proposed area of research, we have a question that kind of goes along those lines of the ocean being fluid, but how specific and well defined should their area of research be? Should they submit an EOI indicating maybe they're open to 2 or 3 different regions or locations in their expression of interest?
Well, my personal answer to that is absolutely yes. The proposals we've gotten in the past that had flexibility in where they wanted to operate really enjoyed the benefits that come from being flexible in where you want to operate. And when we reviewed it and when we considered it, those kinds of proposals have more opportunities to be conducted. But if you have a specific target in mind, absolutely let us know. And if there's some flexibility in that range where you really, really want to be on target A, but target B and C could meet a lot of your goals, that's perfectly fine to tell us that too. The conversation about where you want to operate and why is really valuable. And yeah, I would say either option is perfectly fine, but there is a significant amount of value to having flexibility in your area of operations or your year of operations, as you could now see all of our operation years going forward for the next 10 years. If there's flexibility in what year you want to operate and what basin you want to operate, because there's a phenomenon that occurs in a different place in a different year or something like that, having that flexibility, let us know so that we can consider that while we review proposals.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Leonard. Jyotika, we have a question about whether a science team can submit a similar research project that takes place in multiple years. So in theory, maybe they're submitting 2 or 3 or 4 EOIs so that they can be on board each year in a different region conducting a similar type project.
Yes, actually just picking up, that follows really nicely from what Leonard was talking about, the flexibility of this. So yes, they can. And actually, I would probably suggest that they, in their EOI, indicate that it's linked and connected. So I would probably have one EOI come in that says, we want to work in, off South America and in the South Atlantic and in the Indian Ocean, doing this, that, and the other over these years. So we know that. So the flexibility of this is it's not just in the box in that 1 year. We could have projects across years, because obviously the ocean's got different conditions, and so it makes a lot of sense for some research that you do need different parts of the ocean to do that in. So we are very much open to receiving projects that span years.
Excellent. That's very exciting news. And while we're talking about moving around the ocean, we have a question about Antarctica that hopefully you can help answer as well. Can Falkor 2 go to Antarctica, and what is the higher limit in terms of latitude south in those regions?
Yes, so so Falkor 2 is going to Antarctica, as you will see on our expeditions map, which I think Lisa's put a link in this in the chat there. It's a vessel that's rated for 10 to 15 centimeters of sea ice. So it's not an iceberg, but it is summer ice or light sea ice capable to. And so we're intending to be there towards the end of 2024 and into early 2025 is our first venture down to Antarctica. So I just want to add a note that if you're proposing something for 2024, we do have a shorter deadline. For every other year, it's rolling and ongoing, but our deadline for 2024 is 15th of May for expressions of interest, because we do need the lead time for next year to do permitting and planning and operations. So we'll probably mention that again at some point, but 15th of May would be great for those.
Yes, planning large expeditions does take a little bit of time, so we are looking forward to those that want to work in 2024. Leonard, we actually have a question about the 2023 cruise schedule. We just finished our first expedition, but we have someone wanting to know, is there any room for proposals in the region that Falkor 2 is operating in 2023? And if we are fully booked for this year, do you know when Falkor 2 might return to the region that we plan to operate in this year?
So the short answer to that is yes, 2023 is fully booked. This is our shakedown year. The projects that we're conducting right now are many of the legacy projects that we weren't able to conduct on Falkor Classic. And we reached out to those PIs and wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to offer them an opportunity to go to sea, even though we weren't able to conduct their expedition on Falkor Classic. So those are the PIs that we're working with for the 2023 calendar year. And the second half of that question, when do we know if and when we're going to be back in that exact same region? At the moment, we do not, but we are going to be moving the 10-year plan forward as years progress. So the years that you see on the map now will continue to progress as the years go by, and we will advertise when we're going to be in that region again, about 10 years prior to being there, so people can plan for it. Jyotika, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think just to say that the map right now goes to 2032 and it falls just short of the Pacific Ocean. So you can maybe roughly estimate if you add those boxes as we cross the Pacific and then back into the North Atlantic. So it will take us a little while, I think.
I did want to add one other thing. One thing that we really do encourage PIs to do is to let us know if and when there are opportunities for us to collect data or samples for them, because we will be operating potentially in the region that this person was interested in. And if we are, we would be willing to talk to the PIs that are on board to see about collecting additional samples or targets or whatever the question of interest might be, to try and accommodate the fact that that PI is not on board, but get some of their work done.
Great point. Thank you, Leonard. While we're talking about going to these remote regions and conducting oceanographic research, we have a question: how long can the ship be at sea to conduct this research at one time before it has to go back to port? Jyotika, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, sure. Yes. So the vessel actually has a very robust capability at sea. So it can actually, I think, be out for up to 3 months at a time. So that's a big extension from what Falkor was capable of achieving. Now, of course, the question is, are there projects that require being at sea for 3 months at a time? And do people want to be at sea for 3 months at a time as well? But yes, the vessel has that kind of capability to be out for a long period of time.
Great. Leonard, I know something that is new this year is the format that we are able to accept in terms of expression of interest. And I was wondering if you would like to talk about the new format we're willing to accept this year. And we also have a question about which aspects within the EOI should be particularly emphasized, since the expression of interest is fairly short. Do you have any tips for pieces of that might be emphasized, or that scientists should provide more detail for?
All right, lots to go into there and lots to unpack. So what Allison was talking about was the fact that we are now accepting both written expressions of interest and video expressions of interest. I will caveat that only one, it needs to be submitted, either a written or a video. And the new format is the video format. And the kind of thinking behind that is that we're going to be operating in a lot of regions where English is not the primary language for the folks who are living in the areas where we're operating. And we wanted to give them another more flexible way to present their scientific ideas and their interests to us. So we are absolutely excited and happy to have some of the EOIs come in through that format. The details on both formats are available on the website. And to the question of what kind of advice I have, I would say, first off, I was the one with the team behind me writing the questions that are in there that are on the website that suggest what kinds of questions we're going to be looking to answer. So a lot of those kind of things are put on the website to tell folks exactly what it is we're looking for. And you can go down that list, and every one of those things is something that somebody in the room reviewing a proposal is going to be wondering, is the science robust? Are they working with other folks in the region? Have they thought about communications? And we recognize that not everybody is a communications professional, and we don't expect them to be. But have you thought about your local high school that you might want to reach out to? Have you thought about how you can leverage what SOI already does? Have you put the thought into how you can share your work beyond the traditional routes that we all know? But all those questions are on the website, and those really are the things that we look for. And I would advise anybody writing a proposal to us to take a look at all those questions, maybe not before you start writing it, but certainly while you are writing it, to make sure you capture everything. That's all I've got. Jyotika, I'll pass it over to you if you have any advice to potential writers.
No, I think I would just say exactly what you said, which is to read the call for the expression of interest, because there are details in there, including a couple of places where, we just want to know that you're thinking about it. We don't need the full details at this stage. So read through that because it is short, as Allison mentioned in the question.
Great tips. We have a question, Jyotika, about some opportunities that might be available for marine roboticists or engineers that want to come on board and support current scientists that are maybe bringing innovative or unique technologies on board, or test some of their own technology in parallel, maybe not necessarily to the scientific mission that's taking place on board, but they may need just one or two spots to test a new piece of technology. Could you speak to those opportunities?
Yes, we would really encourage you to also submit an expression of interest for that. In the expression of interest stage, we don't need you to have filled the entire vessel berthing space, but it's good for us to know that you have that kind of capability, you're interested, because then we can either match make, depending on which region we're in, or if there's some other science EOI that comes in that we know is testing something, if there is a match to be made there. So I think gathering the information through this EOI stage is the first step, and then we will review, discuss, and as Leonard said much earlier, it's all about the dialogue.
Excellent. Leonard, we have, sorry.
I'll add one more thing.
Of course.
For those who want to test technology, and it's, you just need half a day to go get out away from shore. We do have what's called the Value Added Science and Technology Program, which is that when we're in port and we have time, we do have a small workboat. And so there may be an opportunity through that as well to just get out slightly away from the coastline. So it wouldn't be, in that entire, deep sea type of stuff. But so that's also an option for those who are testing prototype technologies and just need a little bit of time away from the coast.
Yes, thank you for adding that. I hope we have some engineers and roboticists online that are able to take advantage of those opportunities. Leonard, we have a question about the review process and how that will take place. Does SOI use a dual anonymous peer review process? And for those of you that don't know what that is, that's when the reviewers cannot see the names of the proposals, and the proposers also do not know who reviewed the original proposals. So Leonard, if you could talk maybe about what SOI's process is once we have all of these wonderful expressions of interest submitted to us and how we'll review them.
Certainly. So first part of that is no, we currently do not use a double-blind review process. We blind single, we blind the names of our reviewers to the PIs and the proposers who are writing it, but we do not blind it the other way. We have talked about it quite a bit, and we do see a lot of value in double blinding. We're open to doing it. At the expression of interest phase, however, that would not be the case. Our process is to take all the expressions of interest that we have, do an internal review process where it's being reviewed by the staff at SOI for science and fit to and logistics, and whether or not that it's something that we can and are willing to possibly support. And then at the full proposal stage is where we have a more merit review process style, where we go out for merit review and have a panel behind it. And at that stage, I think we're open to the idea of doing a double blind. We haven't for the past 10 or so years at SOI that I've been part of SOI, done it that way. But absolutely open to it. I think, Jyotika, you had a couple of comments about the double blind process.
Yeah, well, as we were discussing this earlier, Leonard. So I think the advantage of double blinding in the proposal stage is that it really fits into our inclusivity, because we're really truly judging it by the value of the science or technology proposed piece of this. So I think we probably will, as Leonard said, lean towards that in the full proposal stage. But again, as he said, for the EOI, we would not be double blinding it. But the EOI is internal review. So Leonard, you want to talk about who's reviewing on the internal versus external proposal stage?
Certainly. We have a core team and a kind of wider team. The core team begins with the three of us that you see here on this call, as well as our marine operations and comms team. They all have members on the core team that are required to review some significant portion of all the EOIs that come in. And then we open it up to other members of the SOI team, folks who are possibly on the ship and going to be handling the systems, other members of the team who have pieces of the logistics that go into operating the projects on the ship. They're welcome to chime in and give us their input as to whether or not they think that this is or is not something that they can accomplish should this be awarded as a full proposal. And at the end of the day, what it really boils down to is this science that is right for SOI, and does it fit our vision and mission and strategic framework? Is it something we can logistically support? And those are the primary questions we're asking at that stage. And then we don't want to waste anybody's time who's writing a full proposal to us. So at the EOI stage, it's a 2-pager. It's a light lift and it's easy, or relatively easy. And we don't want people to be putting in full proposal level work while they're putting together an EOI. So we don't want people to be going through that heavy lift. And when you put in a full proposal, we want you to know that it has been reviewed by us, and the basic merits of this fit with what we're looking for, and your time spent putting that together and reaching out to the collaborators and reaching out to the local school groups or whatever it is, that it's time well spent. And that's kind of the thought process behind why we have the 2 phases and why we've structured the phases the way they are.
Thanks, Leonard. I think we're all really looking forward to reading some expressions of interest and can't wait for them to be submitted to SOI. We have a question that might be a little bit difficult to answer, since Jyotika mentioned we haven't had expressions of interest or proposals submitted to SOI in quite some time. But we have a question on the probabilities of success when submitting a proposal. So maybe some fun math for you, but maybe you could talk a little bit about what the process was like when we were supporting proposals on Falkor, and if you have any expectations or insight into what we might expect this time around.
Absolutely. So as you said, we have no proposals under review for Falkor 2 yet. But for Falkor, we've had 10 years of data points, and I did do the math on a lot of that over the years. It boiled down, excuse me, please, to about 30% success rate at both phases. At the EOI phase, we were looking on average between 70 and 100 EOIs that came into us, and they all had about a 30% success rate. And at the full proposal stage, we would invite somewhere between 20 and 30 of those EOIs to submit to us. And they were also looking at a 30% success rate. So that's the short answer. And we don't know obviously about what the future is going to hold for us, but I suspect it'll be about the same. I suspect we're going to be seeing similar success rates, but I think Jyotika's got something to add to that. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to add, Leonard, that's interesting to know actually about the previous success rate, but I was going to add that this vessel is bigger. And so therefore we may actually have that number go up. We have absolutely no data on this yet, of course, because this is the first start. So this is pure speculation, but that number may go up. But we're also, like I said, we've added a new program, the Value Added Science and Technology, our VAST program. So we're different we're being more flexible in very different ways. And so there might be opportunities to bring people on board or to add science to the existing mission that's going on. And we've been doing that with the current Falkor 2 set of cruises as well. So we'll see, we'll be able to answer that question perhaps in a couple of years where we've got some data under our belts, but we'll see. Falkor 2 is much bigger, so more people can come on board.
Yes, excellent. I love the speculative analysis. Jyotika, we have some questions about how SOI can help connect with local communities. So we talked a little bit about connecting technologists that may want to come on board, but once we're in areas of our lovely 10-year expedition map, how can we help scientists connect with the local communities that Falkor is operating in?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Well, first of all, our emphasis is we would like to have local scientists come on board. So, throughout the whole science party, chief scientists, students as well. So the intent is that they are already, of course, connected with their local communities. So that's one avenue. But we Schmidt Ocean Institute are also connected to a number of international networks as well. So, for example, we're a member of the All Atlantic Floating University, which is, as the name suggests, around the Atlantic Ocean. It's a number of institutions and countries that are have come together to form this network. So that's, when we're around the Atlantic. So they are very well connected to their local communities. Through our partnerships, I mentioned National Geographic yesterday, but they have a global explorers network who working in many, many countries around the world. So through them, we can also get local connections. And then also Marine Technology Society and IEEE also have a vast global network as well. So we have a number of partnerships as well. And then we are a member of the Ocean Decade Alliance, which is part of the UN Decade of Ocean Science, as well as the Foundations Dialogue. So we are routinely in conversation with other philanthropic organizations from around the world. So we have a lot of international connections, and we can certainly reach out and help if somebody needs assistance in connecting to a local community or local scientists.
Excellent. That's great to hear. Well, our question and answer time flew by today, but I think we have time for one last question. Leonard, we got everyone excited online, all of our participants excited to submit EOIs, and I know they're all furiously writing and typing as we answer their questions. But we have a question about the overall timeline for 2024 proposals, and when can any of the PIs that submit expressions of interest to us over the next coming weeks and months expect to hear back on the outcome of their expressions of interest?
Got it. All right, so I will start with a plug. May 15th for 2024. If you are looking to get your project accomplished in that calendar year, get the proposal in by then. The timeline is going to be a bit flexible because we're going to be looking at proposals across the 10-year time frame. The 2024 projects are going to have a slightly different plan versus what projects further on in the 10-year plan will have. The EOIs for all proposals will be reviewed within 6 months of coming into us, probably more like 2 to 3 months, by that internal panel. And then the ones that go out for full proposal will be given 2 to 3 months to submit their full proposals, and then they will have a review process behind that. And then for the projects that want to operate in 2024, we're going to be looking to get the EOIs used as the primary selecting factor, and then a conversation will begin with the PIs for those projects where we will ask for a full proposal, but that full proposal will not be so targeted at selecting whether or not it's right or wrong for the project for Falkor 2, but helping us to plan for it and to give our marine operations the material that they need to be able to conduct the project. But should somebody listening in put in a proposal for 2024, that EOI will be the decision point for SOI as to whether or not it's something we're going to be able to support. And we're going to be doing that in a 1 to 2 month time period. That's going to be a really, really quick turnaround before they get a yes, no from us.
Can I quickly just add that our legacy cruises from Falkor actually extend into, I think, February of 2024. So really, we're looking for March onwards. And as Leonard said, we're going to be much more targeted in our 2024 selection, much faster.
Great to hear. Thank you all for that insight. And thank you so much, Leonard and Jyotika, for taking the time to answer all of our participants' questions. I hope we have excited and encouraged everyone to get their expressions of interest ready and submitted to Schmidt Ocean Institute. We will be hosting 2 other sessions coming up and just shortly on how you can come on board for Bursts of Opportunity or Artists at Sea, and how you can participate in our Ship to Shore program. So please check the Symposium website for the details on those sessions and come ready with your questions to our communications and outreach team. Leonard and Jyotika will be back in a few hours to answer more questions about the proposal process. And Leonard, I will turn it over to you for our final words before we end this session.
Well, thanks to everybody who joined. We really enjoyed all the questions that came in live. Final plug, anybody who wants to operate in 2024, get your proposals into us. And for those of you who want to operate further out in the year, again, get your proposals into us. We are thrilled and excited to see all the science that's coming our way. And we are even more thrilled to be conducting it in the future.